Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. And I'm currently mad at today's guest. No. Mr. Nate Wilde is calling me because he is on a whirlwind tour of Mexico where he is checking out different resorts while it's snowing here on November 1st in Chicagoland. But anyway, Nate, I'm so excited about today's conversation. We've already decided it'll be hard to get us to stop talking. I love chatting business with you and entrepreneurship and iterations and all of those cool things. So before we get into it, why don't you tell everybody like what it is you actually do and why you get to hang out in Puerto Vallarta where the rest of us are working from a office.
That's what I am very blessed with my job. It's snowing in Chicago apparently, and it was like 15 degrees when I left Idaho Falls on Monday. So I am in the same boat, and I'm very happy to be here in the warm zone. I'm Nate Wilde. I am the founder and CEO of Luxury Mastermind Experience, where our whole goal is helping to build logistical plans and execute amazing, luxurious retreats and events for group coaching programs, for thought leaders, for people who are becoming thought leaders. So I'm a very, very, very big fan of using in-person events and retreats to grow businesses. I think that I love a good Zoom call every now and then. And I mean, that is just the name of the game. But when you can get people in a room together, one of my friends always uses the phrase breaking bread together, like chatting, working, suffering, whatever it is, or enjoying all together. That is when like real magic happens. So that's why I get to travel. I take my people to places like Puerto Vallarta and all over to do some amazing stuff. So I love my job.
That's okay. But you're absolutely right. Like, I think this I'm in the middle of finishing. That's not how you say that. I'm finishing an ebook right now called Connect as a Human First. And to your point, like there's this amazing thing that we've been able to do. I was already on Zoom pre-pandemic, but now that the world has normalized virtual conversations, there's this amazing things that we do. Because truthfully, you and I probably wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yeah.
And yet there is no replacing getting humans together in person to solidify and my favorite is when we do this all by Zoom and then we finally get to meet each other.
Those are the best. Honestly, we've had so many events where you do that. You've been meeting on Zoom calls and it's all great interactions for months, and it may be a little bit stale at some point. That's what the way Zoom calls get. But then you meet literally for 2 days and everybody's businesses just start jumping again and everybody gets so excited and it's the best 2 days of the month. Like I could talk all day about how exciting that sort of thing is. So Erin and I haven't actually met in person, and we have an event coming up in 2 months.
2 months.
So that's when this is all going to happen for us.
Yes, exactly. So how did you get started in this? Because I know there's a marketing background in there, there's a business building background in there. So for people, let's talk about that for a minute. Like, give us the went wide into now going narrow, because a lot of people ask me that. They're like, well, how do I figure out what to do?
It's a big deal. So I always knew I wanted to start a business in my life, that was my dream, my end goal. And about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago at this point, I came to work with Josh Tapp at Pantheon.fm, who I believe has been on your show as well.
Yeah.
Great guy. We worked in podcast monetization and in building stuff for digital entrepreneurs. And there's a lot of digital entrepreneurs who are coaches who need retreats. It kind of molded from podcast monetization to figuring out high ticket strategies and figuring out how to kind of propel things forward. And every time we talk to people, they're like, well, I want to have a retreat maybe in 10 years. Like it's like a fever dream for them, like to have a retreat at some point. And not just coaches, like any digital entrepreneurs, branders, people with niche like consulting
Mhm.
options, like everybody's like, oh, it'd be so cool to bring people together for my services. But nobody ever does it because we were looking around
It's
and there.
crazy. Well, you put someone like me, like, perfect example, entrepreneur, strategist, visionary. I totally want to have a retreat. I already know how it would look, but my strength is not going to be about executing on all of the million details of that plan.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my strength is I adore a good project planning sesh, if you will.
So do
Travel is
I,
my
as long as
thing.
I can be the
It
one
is.
coming up with the ideas and then
Oh
leave.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. But then on top of that, like actually facilitating, like I was the general manager of a restaurant when I was 20 years old, and like the customer service and attention to detail and facilitation, that being the guy with a clipboard in the back of a room at a retreat, that is absolutely my
So it's
jam.
kind of
That's
like
I love that.
herding cats, but all the
Oh
cats are
yeah.
on steroids and they're all hyped up on
Yes.
catnip.
And
And
all the cats are millionaires and act like it. So just kidding. That's we've had a couple of those, but it is a big deal, and I kind of love it though. And it's the thing is, every single coach or every single person who thinks about doing a retreat, if you wanted to start a retreat right now, you may have some knowledge. You have the places you've gone to, specific resorts or hotels in those places. But I started thinking about, I was like, this is I can literally travel the world, get to know so many amazing properties, amazing spaces, and then go and bring those to people and just consult and build these amazing things that are on brand, are perfect for the retreat that they want. Like the places I'm staying in Puerto Vallarta, for many of my coaches, I would never recommend it to them because of the culture, because of whatever. But it's you can kind of match the brand and actually
mm-hmm.
come up with a really, really sensational retreat once you put in a couple thousand hours of of
Legwork ahead of
learning
time.
on the back end. So
But what
yeah.
you're talking about, and this is what, there's a mixture here of not creating your business in a bubble. I see people make that mistake all the time where they have the thing that they want to do. So they create the thing that they want to sell and they put all this time and money and energy and effort into that thing, not really knowing if anyone needs it, wants it, or will buy it. But what you've done because of your experience and how you've iterated your way here is found what I call that intersection between where the thing that your ideal client needs and wants and your genius zone. Like, where
Yes.
is that
Yeah.
intersection? And if you can work at that intersection, it works.
It works. And I mean, it makes it so that you enjoy what you do every single day. Like I always knew travel was my thing. I could show you, I have a travel list. Literally, I counted it, 900 places all over the
Oh my
world that
God.
I want to go. I have it mapped on Google Earth. Like a
You have too
travel
much
is my
time on your
thing.
hands.
So
We need to have a different
I
discussion.
probably do. I spend too much time in airports. That's why. So
That's true. That's very,
but
very good.
it's when you can find that stuff that it's like that just gets you going, that like you can sit down at a desk and do for hours and hours and hours, and not and like look up and be like, oh my gosh, it's 9:30 at night. that's that is the amazing stuff. And I think a lot of people think that that's unrealistic. It absolutely is not. There's a thing
Well,
for everybody in that.
there's a thing for everyone, but I will ask you this
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people do find that for themselves.
Yeah.
The problem that they run into, and the problem my clients and my audience runs into, is when you start the business because you want to do what the business does. You're good at it, you love it. However, doing what the business does is really only a teeny tiny little piece of
Mm-hmm.
owning a business. There's still client acquisition, that has to happen. So what do what is I know in your background, you were talking about monetizing podcasts for a while and you work with Josh for a while. Like, what is your approach for your business of client acquisition that allows you to now do all these things?
Yes. And I want to answer that, but you're bringing up the point of like how it often shifts and it's often just a tiny part of what you do that you actually love. I think you coined this and I wrote this down and I love this. It's so funny. I think on the one of the calls that we've been on, you said this and I grabbed a hold of it, that so many people in business approach everything they do with it's a random acts of marketing, random acts of whatever it may be. I'm almost positive you were the one who said
random
this.
act. I say it's random acts of marketing, random acts of business, random acts of right. There's no strategy to what they're trying to do.
Exactly. So, and that for me is really what I think it comes down to, because when it comes down to acquiring clients, to opening the door for everybody, I have a clear vision of what life I want to live. I know how much I need to budget per month. I know how much I want to make. I know what it looks like. I know how much I want to be traveling. And then because of that, everything that I do on my business, most things, obviously, I think we get distracted and nobody's perfect in business. And I, for one, am very far from perfect. But I try to be very deliberate and not do those random acts of business because of my vision. So when it comes to acquiring clients in that realm, it's always really, I think what I sell and what I try to bring to people, this is going to sound way more philosophical than it should, at least in my head, it seems that way, is I sell vision for people, like try to help them to see how their business can level up with a good retreat or with an event in person, and then use my zone of genius, the things that I know I do really well and that I've put so much time and effort into, to making that sensational for them. So
well, and
that
when you
all
talk
then
like
goes,
that, but when you talk like that, client acquisition doesn't have to be horribly challenging. It doesn't have to be horribly complicated. When you started exactly where I recommend people start. What do you want? What are we creating? What are we doing? Because it turns into a litmus test for you, right?
Yeah.
Is the thing that I'm going to do moving me further away from or towards what I said that I wanted?
Exactly.
And it's hard. It's hard to stay in that framework.
Oh, because I mean, I think every entrepreneur has shiny thing syndrome. What is that? It's whatever it is. It's where it's shiny object syndrome, where we see something that looks really cool and sparkling and exciting, and immediately we're like, can we do that? Can we be a part of that? Can we whatever? And it really, like, once you have that vision and the idea of, hey, this is what I want to be doing. I know I want to, in 2-3 years, I want to be working 20 hours a week, and I want to be spending most of my time either at these events or on the real estate side of things in my business. That's where I want to spend my time. And that kind of encapsulates the travel side, the project side, but it doesn't have those parts of it that I kind of suck at. So, and then with that mindset, anytime I see the shiny thing, I could say, oh, that looks amazing. Does it fit? Is this going to help me? Is it 6 months from down the line? Is this actually going to help me to reach my goals, or is this going to be a hindrance to me and like take way too much of my time where it shouldn't? So I think that's just a big deal.
Hard. And sometimes it's hard to have an honest or even educated response, because a lot of times that shiny object we're lured by is somebody else's really good marketing. So it looks like it would get us to where we want, and we just don't know.
I have fallen victim of that a couple of times. So
I think that's a learning curve.
It is. Yeah. I'm 26. I'm dumb sometimes. So
well, and it's a learning curve. Like, I have learned to ask better questions. Right. I have learned, before I say yes to something, to ask better questions. I have learned to trust my instincts to make sure, am I doing this because I'm excited to create something, or am I doing this because I'm desperate for something to happen? Because if it's the second thing, those decisions seldom work out.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That, I think if entrepreneurs, if we can get ourselves out of that mindset, and I'm going to caveat this because getting out of that mindset when you have $15 in your bank and you have rent due next Tuesday, that is
No fun.
that is the roughest thing to do. But
Rough.
if you can move your mindset and kind of open it to figuring out the long-term vision and thoughtfully, I'm gonna say thoughtfully approach these shiny objects. I love that. I'm gonna keep coming back to
Keep
that
saying.
because it really, I think we all do it all the time, and it's a big deal. That changes the game. So, not to say people shouldn't be paying their rent. Like honestly, you get in those positions, and
Pay your rent. We
sometimes
need
it's
to
like
not be
you
homeless.
need to figure it out. Yeah,
Yes.
please.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, and the other thing, and we've mentioned Josh here a couple times, your friend Josh, my friend Josh, my new best friend. As entrepreneurs, we tend to be creators.
Yeah.
And as creators, we like to keep creating things. And the problem with effective business practices, they're really boring. They're really
Oh yeah.
boring.
I mean, that's what gets exciting with random acts of marketing is it's something new and we get excited by that. So yeah, to your point, that is so true.
Well,
Unfortunately.
and so I know my approach is to hire people around me to manage those things, and truthfully
Yeah.
to be increasingly manage me
Yeah.
to prevent it.
That's smart. Honestly, that'll do it. So I think I mean, if you bring it back to the core of it, you said it like entrepreneurs, we are creators. And I think at the same time, a lot of us are perfectionists and a lot of us are get very, very excited about things. To reel this all back to what we were talking about with it, it's whenever you can apply your vision and the thing that you know you do super well and that you feel called to bring that to the world. If I don't know, I mean, I sometimes believe that there's like that calling and whatever to business and what you're supposed to do. I think it's some of it's mumbo jumbo, but like whatever. But if there's that thing, then once you have that idea, once you know, and then it's just a matter of discipline. It's about of figuring this out. And honestly, I'm saying this out loud, and I'm kind of telling that to myself because I know I fall short when it comes to the discipline of staying away from shiny objects and approaching that. So
Well, and
it's
I
a
think,
lot. And
and there's a lot of messaging out in the small business and entrepreneur space that is the opposite of discipline. It's there's so much, vision. And you mentioned those words, vision casting and, visualize it and to create it. But the truth is, there's work to be done. There's discipline that's needed to do the work. And, I call it navel gazing, just trying to like will things to happen. Yes, you have to have the positive mindset and you have to believe it's possible and you have to have your head on straight so that you can just even make it happen.
yeah,
But that's the beginning, not the end.
it is. No, you're right. And I want to put this back to you. Can I ask you questions? Is that
Yeah,
allowed in the podcast?
you're allowed to
Because
do
this is
whatever you want.
it's
You're
always
taking me to Puerto Rico in a couple months. You can do whatever
Puerto
you
Vallarta,
want.
Puerto
Puerto
Vallarta.
Vallarta. Puerto
Yeah.
Rico's in the other
Um,
direction. Yes. You can do
hey,
whatever you
we'll
want.
go there too. We'll go
Go
there.
there
So
too.
hey, everybody who's listening to this, come and sign up for Erin's new mastermind retreat, which is gonna be in Puerto Rico. So
There you go. I love it. The Dorado in Puerto Rico. I love Dorado. So we can just
El
go there.
Dorado is that spot is great. I have a couple of resorts to go to push your way with that. But what was my question? That was it. So I know you have your hands and you work with a lot of people on amazing levels with branding, with uh, helping them, I guess, kind of what we're talking about, like
Mhm.
redefining their vision and setting themselves forward. with their personal brand, with their game plan, if you will, their vision. How do you approach people who, or what do you recommend to people who, when it comes to business, they kind of put the end before the means, or they look at the means as kind of the end, like the start of their business, the first steps that they're taking, that kind of becomes their central focus and their end all be all, and they kind of get tunnel vision on that. First off, is that accurate, would you say? Because I feel like I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, that's accurate. I think there's a couple of things there. A lot of it is a lot of reinforcement, a lot of conversation. I think that happens when people are left to their own devices too long without an external, right? And I'm guilty of it also. I'll give you a perfect example. I went to an event last week, 2 weeks ago. I don't know. It was in Florida. And there was maybe 30 people in the room. And due to the conversations we were having, I ended up helping people in the room in addition to the people presenting. And several people asked me, well, why are you here? You already know this, this, and this. And I said, because you never see your own blind spots. Yeah. And if you are trying to do something as hard as the self-improvement journey required by entrepreneurship without an external guide, without an external voice to call you on your crap or to point out your blind spots or just to give you the 2 next steps, you are wasting so much time. You become susceptible. You said fall victim to somebody's marketing. I call it you are susceptible. And it's not because you're not smart, and it's not because you don't know what you're doing. It's because we're all too close to our own story. We're all too close. It's our baby. My business is my baby, and everyone thinks their baby is beautiful, right? Not every baby's quite so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
You're too close to it. So I do see it a lot. Yes and no. I know it's out there a lot because I hear it so much. I see it in people's social media. I hear it in conversations. I don't experience it a lot firsthand because of who's in my closer circle. Those people don't like me. Those people don't like me. I just want to do it my way. I don't want anyone to help me. Those people don't like me because one of my things is building relationships. Who can help me? Who can help me? Who can help me? Who can I help? Who can I help? Who can I help? Like the lone wolf, I know what I'm doing and nobody can tell me otherwise. Those people just self-select away from me.
I find that hilarious and so accurate because I feel the same way. Like I do a lot with our retreats. Erin's a part of one, and I hope she's going to be a part of a lot of other ones in the future of this. We do a lot of like joint venture retreats where we're bringing 3 to 5 or 6 coaches together who all have very compatible groups, and it's when you can add that value side by side, like to your relationships point, and people who think they have to be lone gunslingers, like I'm in the business to make thought leaders. And you cannot become a thought leader. You cannot become all of that if you're going to go by yourself. Mainly, maybe not mainly, but in huge part because of your own personal blind spots that every single person has. We all have them. And if we're going solo, if we're just trying to run it by ourselves and do everything, that is not going to end up the way you want it to.
No, I
because your blind spots are going to catch up to you, and there's going to be a Toyota Prius in there, and that's not going to end well.
Or a semi truck.
Or a semi.
Or a
probably. I mean, yeah, Prius isn't too crazy, but
it just bounce off the car, right?
Right. Bumper cars.
No, so. Totally. So let me switch this up on you a little bit. What are you most proud of?
Oh, in general or in my business?
In general, whatever you want.
In general. Oh man. I was thinking about this just the other day. we only launched this business in February, Luxury Mastermind Experience. It hasn't even been 9 months. The idea has been going around for about 2 years or so, but it hasn't been long at all. And we're already like next year. I'm literally sitting in the Marriott in Puerto Vallarta, gonna go talk to their team because next year in September we're planning on buying out the entire property, 430 something units. Like, I was thinking about how amazing, amazing, amazing that is. Like, I'm really, really proud of that. And obviously it's in part because of the sensational people we've been partnering with. Josh
But
Tapp, for
so
example.
stop there for a second, because I want,
sure.
I'm from the Midwest. We think we have to work really hard in order for anything to work. We think it has to take a long time, and it really doesn't. It really doesn't. And at the same time, so that's number one. The number one lesson is, yeah, you have to do the work, but it doesn't have to take forever. But the second thing that you said and you started to say is, it's because of the people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I could talk about that for hours. It
It's
is
because of the
exclusively because of the
people.
people. Yeah.
It's
No, I'm
be
surrounded by sensational people and genuinely, and to your point with relationships, I think it was subconscious at first, but kind of developing these relationships, the people pleaser and like the the brown noser within me. Every single call I got on, I was like, I want to work with this guy. I want to be friends. I want to join venture. I want to do whatever. And got so excited about all of it. And obviously for sales, for things like that, that it doesn't always do the best. You have to kind of come from a different position for sales. Not always, but when it comes to actually partnering from, learning from, and providing value back and forth, like that sort of relationships, or those sort of relationships are killer. Like, they will change every single business. I talk to like all my friends who have, like, one of my friends, it's funny, he's come up in like 3 podcast interviews in the past month. He runs a local fitness gym. Well, he doesn't run the gym, he's a personal trainer at a gym. He has his own like company.
Mhm.
And I've been talking to him about like, oh my gosh, you need to go and be friends with this guy, this guy, this guy, and just provide value. Do as much as you can to help them and to be there for them. And then you're the shoe-in. You're the guy that the second they have the vision and they have the idea of what you're doing, they're gonna go straight to you and say, hey, here's 20 clients, here's whatever. And it's all a matter of relationships, and it takes time and effort and money sometimes, but it's if you invest in that, it makes a lot of sense, and it's just so much better. Like,
It is, and it's
lone
not
gunslinger sucks.
right, and it's not coming from the people pleasing scarcity place, because if I don't do this, you won't like me. It's coming from the service based, how can we help each other? It has to come from an abundance standpoint. I think it's also why I don't see quite the same thing happen at lower financial levels as I see at higher financial levels, because they're still scrapping for their dollar.
Yeah.
And right. And they're holding on so tight to what they're trying to create that it's just too scary to think about letting somebody in. Once there's a couple dollars in the bank, you can open up a little bit and you see amazing things happen.
That scrapping for the dollar thing it's brutal. And it's so funny because I've seen people who are scrapping for the dollar when they have $500,000 in their bank account, or they have like full cash out, no mortgage on $1 million home. And it's a mentality thing. It's a vision thing. And it's everybody, every single business owner, if you're able to open your eyes to that, and every call you get on, the messages you get on LinkedIn, like LinkedIn is a crazy, like it's kind of a crap show right now, but everybody on there, I used to say this, and I think I'd still stand by this, but when I was young and over dramatic, I would always say,
as opposed to now when you're old and not
yeah,
dramatic at all.
old and cranky. Yeah, exactly. 26. It's
very old and not dramatic. You're like
well
not
past
dramatic
my
the way I'm
midlife
not
crisis. Yeah.
dramatic. Wrong.
Younger and more dramatic. I always used to say that everybody deserves a standing ovation for something. And I feel like that was like a weird saying, but I look back and I was like, little Nate was kind of smart. Like, that's not untrue. Like, everybody has super cool value that they can add, whether it's what they're doing now or not. Like, I was talking to a guy at an event a month ago. He, amazing guy. He's in the Marine Corps. He is a keynote speaker. He leads one of the Marine Corps orchestra, or the band, I think, or he's like the production leader for it. And he was telling me about how like he would go to these places and he'd make sure that as people are walking out, the band is playing this song so that they have this experience. And with my business, he was like talking about how I could incorporate things like smell and like different things, different senses. And I was like, Marcus, you need to be like an experience design consultant. You would kill it. And so I think a lot of people, that's my story to say that a lot of people, whether they see it or not, they have the most sensational value that they can add to everything. And if you're constantly looking for how you can provide value to them and how you can kind of implement it, like your whole life doesn't have to revolve around joint ventures and partnerships and stuff like that. But everyone that you make in the right way, and if we wrap this all back in with your end vision, your own personal zone of genius in mind, that's going to kill it. That's just going to expedite everything you're doing. So you don't have to wait 30 years until your business starts to grow. It can be 6 months. Like that can be your rate of pushing it. It really, it's a vision thing over and over again. And I wish that I could drill that into people's minds. I wish I could just make connections like that all day, because it just gets me so excited. And there's so much value that can be had in the world for everybody. So
Absolutely.
I could go on that rant for a long time.
I absolutely love it. And I
soapbox.
just want to leave it at that. I think I want to
Mhm.
wrap it up with that, because I absolutely agree with you. I love the sentiment. I love the energy and the intention behind it. If people want to continue this conversation with you, how do they find you?
Come and check me out on LinkedIn. That is the best spot. I try to do everything relationships based, so we don't even have a website right now. We'll get one. That's in the plan, but come and check on that. And if you want to be a thought leader, if you're moving in that direction, send me a message, because I want to talk to people. That's my whole goal, is to build thought leaders. So LinkedIn, it's Nate Wilde. It's the guy with the gray suit, or it'll say something about retreats in my tagline if I ever change my photo. So that's me.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and your experiences. I love showing everybody what is possible. And I think you are a phenomenal example of that. So thank you.
Erin, you're the best. You're too kind to me. So thank you for having me. This is such a good time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I truly enjoy bringing these stories of success and inspiration to you. Please join us in our mission to empower entrepreneurs to be in charge of their businesses and in charge of their lives by sharing this with anyone you know who would benefit from our tactical and motivating advice, leaving us a review, and letting us know if there are any particular topics you would really appreciate hearing about. See you next time.